Picture a man sitting alone in a room. No phone, no conversation, no noise, just him and everything he has been running from. That man was Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, the most powerful human being alive in the 2nd century. A man who commanded armies, governed nations, and held the fate of millions in his hands. And yet, every single morning before the world demanded anything from him, he sat in silence. He wrote to himself. He questioned himself. He disciplined himself. Not because life was easy, but because it wasn't. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That single line has outlived empires. It has crossed 2,000 years of war, plague, revolution, and collapse, and it still lands exactly where it's meant to land, right in the center of your chest. Because somewhere in your life, right now, maybe in your relationships, your work, your habits, your silence at 2 a.m., when sleep won't come, something is broken. Not beyond repair, but broken enough that you feel it every day. This audiobook is not a quick fix. It is not a motivational speech. It is a framework. A 30-day guide built on Stoic philosophy, one of the most battle-tested schools of thought in human history, designed to help you stop reacting, stop bleeding energy into things you cannot control, and rebuild the most important thing a person can possess: inner peace. Not the Instagram version, not the kind sold in a weekend retreat. The real kind, the kind Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca forged through fire, through loss, exile, poverty, slavery, and war. Let us begin. Part 1. The noise that's killing you. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with sleep. You can wake up after 8 hours and still feel like something inside you has been wrung out, still feel like the day is already too heavy before it's truly started. You scroll through your phone. You read an opinion that bothers you. Someone says something cutting. A notification pulls your attention in 17 directions, and by noon, you are already drained, not from doing, but from reacting. This is emotional overload, and it is the silent destroyer of modern inner life. The Stoics understood something that neuroscience has only recently begun to confirm. The human mind is not built for the volume of input we now receive. Every day, we are fed thousands of pieces of information, news, opinions, arguments, comparisons, desires, fears. Each one tugs at our attention. Each one demands a response, and the cumulative weight of all that reacting slowly dismantles the thing the Stoics called hegemonikon, the governing faculty of the mind. Think of your mind like a river. In its natural state, it flows clear and purposeful. But when you pour too much into it, when you dump in every notification, every argument, every stranger's opinion, every breaking headline, it becomes turbid, cluttered. You can no longer see the bottom. You can no longer tell which direction is downstream. That cloudiness is not weakness. It is overload. Seneca, writing from Rome over 2,000 years ago, could already see what was happening to people around him. He wrote, "Retire into yourself as much as possible." He warned that spending too much time in crowds, meaning constant social stimulation and external noise, disrupts the carefully built inner architecture of a disciplined mind. Now imagine what Seneca would say. about a world where the crowd never leaves, where the crowd follows you into your bedroom, sits on your nightstand, and whispers to you at midnight. The first step in this 30-day reset is not to do anything dramatic. It is simply to see clearly what is happening, to acknowledge that you have been living in a state of chronic emotional noise, and that this noise has a cost. The cost is your peace, your clarity, your ability to think deeply, feel genuinely, and act with intention. Before silence can rebuild you, you must first understand what the noise has done. Part 2. The Stoic Power of Silence and Observation. The ancient Stoics did not value silence the way we often misunderstand it as emptiness, avoidance, or withdrawal. They valued it as a weapon. Silence, to a Stoic, is the space in which wisdom is born. Epictetus, born a slave, who became one of the most influential philosophers in human history, had almost nothing. He was owned. He was physically disabled. He had no wealth, no title, no external power of any kind. And yet, he became free, in the most profound sense possible, because he mastered something no master could take from him. His response? He taught his students this: we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. And beneath that simple observation was a revolutionary idea that most human suffering comes not from what happens to us, but from our immediate, unexamined reaction to what happens to us. Watch yourself for a single day with this lens. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You feel a flash of rage. You grip the wheel. Your heart accelerates. You might mutter something under your breath. And then, 20 minutes later, you can barely remember the car. But the cortisol is still in your bloodstream. The irritation has colored the next conversation you had. A ripple has gone outward from a moment that meant absolutely nothing. That is the cost of a single unexamined reaction. Now multiply that by 100 moments in a day, by 7 days in a week, by years. Silence is the practice of pausing before the ripple forms. It is the practice of watching the stimulus arrive and choosing deliberately, consciously, how or whither to respond. Marcus Aurelius called this the space between stimulus and response. He did not call it inaction. He called it power. In your 30-day journey, silence will take several forms. There will be literal silence, periods of quiet observation, where you simply watch your own thoughts without feeding them. There will be communicative silence, the deliberate choice to not respond to every provocation. And there will be internal silence, the gradual quieting of the compulsive inner voice that narrates, judges, and catastrophizes every moment of your life. These forms of silence are not natural at first. They are practiced, they are earned, and they are, without question, transformative. Part 3. The Art of Not Reacting. One of the most radical things you can do in the modern world is to simply not react. Not because you are passive, not because you do not care, but because you have understood something profound. Not every fire deserves your water. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, what we now call meditations, these words: the first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are. 2 rules. Keep your spirit untroubled. See things clearly. That is the entire philosophy, compressed. When someone insults you, the Stoic question is not, how do I defend myself? The Stoic question is, does this insult contain truth? If it does, be grateful for the mirror. If it does not, why would you allow the words of someone mistaken about you to disturb your inner peace? This sounds simple. It is not easy. It requires training. Think of emotional discipline, the way you think of physical training. No one walks into a gym for the first time and lifts the heaviest weight. You build. You develop tolerance. You strengthen the muscle through repetition. The muscle of non-reaction is built the same way. Start small. The next time someone says something that irritates you in a comment, in a conversation, in a meeting, take one breath before you respond. Just one. In that breath, ask yourself, does my response serve me? Does it serve the situation? Or am I simply discharging emotion? Most of the time, you will find you are about to discharge emotion. And once you see that, you can choose differently. This single practice, one breath before response, has more transformative power than most people realize, because it interrupts the automatic loop. It inserts consciousness between stimulus and reaction. And consciousness is exactly where freedom lives. Over 30 days, this breath becomes a habit. The habit becomes a reflex, and the reflex becomes character. Part 4. Marcus Aurelius on controlling the mind. Marcus Aurelius was not born a philosopher. He was born into wealth, trained for empire, and thrust into leadership during one of the most turbulent periods in Roman history. He fought wars he did not start, governed people who betrayed him, survived plagues that killed thousands around him, and buried children. He had every reason to spiral, to become bitter, to use his unlimited power as an outlet for his pain. Instead, he wrote, every morning he sat with himself and examined his own mind. He held himself accountable in writing not to appear wise to others, but because he understood that without rigorous self-examination, the mind defaults to its worst impulses. And a man with the power of an emperor acting on his worst impulses is catastrophic. But here is what makes his practice so universal. He did not have easier circumstances than you. He had worse ones. He simply had better tools. The tool he returned to most often was the distinction between what is up to us and what is not up to us. Epictetus formalized this as the dichotomy of control, perhaps the single most important concept in Stoic philosophy. Some things are in our power: our judgments, our intentions, our responses, our character. Everything else, other people's behavior, the weather, the economy, your past, the opinions of strangers, is not in our power. Most human suffering is caused by investing enormous emotional energy into the second category. When Marcus Aurelius was betrayed by generals he trusted, he could not control the betrayal. He could control his response to it. When plagues swept through Rome and people died in the streets, he could not stop the deaths. He could control how he led through the grief. Apply this to your own life. You cannot control whether your relationship ends. You can control how you rebuild afterward. You cannot control whether you were passed over for a promotion. You can control the quality of your work going forward. You cannot control whether someone respects you. You can control whether you respect yourself. This is not resignation. This is precision. You are withdrawing your energy from battles you cannot win and reinvesting it in the only territory you truly own, your own mind. Over the next 30 days, return to this distinction every time you feel yourself becoming anxious, angry, or overwhelmed. Ask, is this in my control or not? If not, release it. If yes, focus entirely on your response. This is not a philosophical exercise. This is survival. Part 5. Detaching from toxic opinions. Here is something uncomfortable to sit with. Much of your suffering has been borrowed. You did not generate it yourself. Someone handed it to you in the form of an opinion about who you are, what you deserve, what you are worth, and you accepted the package without inspecting its contents. A parent told you that you were not enough. An ex told you that you were too much. A boss told you that you were replaceable. A stranger on the internet told you something cruel, and somewhere along the way, you began to believe that these opinions were data, that they were truth. They were not. They were projections. Epictetus was clear about this. It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. The opinion itself is neutral. It is your acceptance of the opinion, as meaningful as a verdict on your worth, that causes pain. This is not about becoming callous. It is about developing discernment, learning to distinguish between feedback that genuinely serves your growth and the noise of people projecting their own unresolved wounds onto your life. A useful practice is what the Stoics called examining the impression. When a toxic opinion reaches you, when someone criticizes you, dismisses you, or attempts to diminish you, pause before you absorb it. Ask, who is this person to me? Do they know me deeply and truthfully? Is this criticism rooted in care, or in their own frustration? Is there genuine truth here, or is this their pain speaking? And then, most importantly, even if this opinion were entirely true, does it change who I choose to be? That last question is where your power lives. You do not need the world's approval to become who you are meant to become. Marcus Aurelius wore the crown of Rome and still wrote privately that the opinions of the crowd were empty. Receive without pride, relinquish without struggle. Receive the good with humility. Release the rest without a fight. Over the next 30 days, practice noticing how many of your emotional reactions are sourced in what someone else thinks of you, not what you think of yourself, what they think. The more you notice this pattern, the more clearly you will see how much of your inner life has been outsourced to other people. Then begin the quiet work of taking it back. Part 6. Building emotional discipline. Emotional discipline is not the suppression of emotion. Let that be stated clearly. The Stoics were not emotionless. Marcus Aurelius grieved. Seneca loved deeply. Epictetus felt the sting of injustice. The goal was never to become stone. The goal was to become the master of the house, not the slave of every passing mood. Think about what it means to be enslaved to your emotions. Every wave of anxiety dictates your decisions. Every flash of anger costs you a relationship or an opportunity. Every bout of sadness becomes a spiral that takes you further from the life you want to be living. You are not experiencing emotion. You are being dragged by it. Emotional discipline is the practice of housing your emotions without being governed by them. You feel the anger fully, honestly. You do not deny it. but you decide when it is expressed, how it is expressed, and whether it informs your action or merely passes through you. Marcus Aurelius described this beautifully. Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now, take what's left and live it properly. That is not morbidity. That is liberation. He is saying, stop being so attached to every feeling that you forget you are the one doing the experiencing. You are not your anxiety. You are the one aware of your anxiety. You are not your grief. You are the one experiencing grief. You are not your anger. You are the one observing the anger rise. This gap between the emotion and the observer is where discipline is built, and it is built through practice. In the 30-day framework, emotional discipline is developed through several daily practices we will outline shortly. But the foundational one is this. At the end of every day, sit with yourself for 10 minutes and review the day's emotional landscape. Where did you react impulsively? Where did you speak before thinking? Where did you allow someone else's mood to alter your own? Where were you governed rather than governing? Not to judge yourself, not to spiral into shame, but to see. Because you cannot change what you cannot see. This daily review, which the Stoics called the evening examination, is perhaps the single most powerful tool in the entire 30-day reset. Part 7. Daily Silent Reflection Exercises. Let us now move from philosophy into practice. Because philosophy without practice is just entertainment. The following are the core silent reflection exercises for the 30-day journey. They are designed to be simple, sustainable, and progressively deepening the morning anchor 5 minutes. Before you check your phone, before the noise begins, before the world claims your attention, sit, breathe 5 slow, deliberate breaths. Then, ask yourself one question. What is in my control today? Write down 3 things that are genuinely within your power today. Not what you hope happens, what you can actually do, decide, or be. This grounds you in the Stoic dichotomy before the day's chaos has a chance to sweep you into the second category, the midday pause, 2 minutes. At some point in the middle of your day between tasks, before a difficult conversation, or when you feel the first wave of overwhelm, stop. Step away from the screen. Step away from other people. Take 2 minutes to simply breathe and observe what you are feeling. No judgment, no fixing, just observation. Ask, what is happening in my body right now? What am I feeling? Where is this feeling coming from? This practice builds the muscle of self-awareness during the most demanding hours of the day. It interrupts the momentum of reactive living. The evening examination, 10 minutes. This is the cornerstone. Each night before sleep, sit in silence and review the day in 3 passes. First, where did I act with discipline and intention today? Acknowledge this not for pride, but for reinforcement. You are rewiring your brain toward behaviors you want to repeat. Second, where did I fall short? Where did I react instead of respond? Where did I give my peace away to something unworthy? Be honest. Be specific. Then ask, what would I do differently? Third, what am I grateful for today that I did not choose and cannot control? This final reflection keeps you connected to the miracle of existence. Beneath all the noise, a practice Marcus Aurelius himself returned to constantly. The silence walk, 15 to 20 minutes, 3 times a week. Walk alone. No earbuds, no podcast, no music, just you, your body moving, and the world as it is. For most people, the first few silence walks are deeply uncomfortable. Your mind will reach for its usual entertainment. It will generate anxiety, to-do lists, fragments of conversations. Let it. Do not fight it. Simply observe without engaging. The silence walk trains you to be comfortable in your own presence, which, for many people, has become a lost art. Over 30 days, these walks will shift from uncomfortable to revelatory. You will begin to think again, not process information, but genuinely think. Insights will surface. Problems will untangle themselves. You will hear the quieter part of yourself that the noise has been drowning out. The opinion fast 1 day per week. Choose 1 day each week to fast from other people's opinions. No social media, no news, no arguments, no comment sections. This is not about ignorance. It is about recognizing how addicted you may have become to the constant stream of external validation and conflict. The opinion fast reveals this addiction clearly, because the first time you try it, you will feel the pull intensely. That pull is important information. It shows you how much of your mental life has been organized around what others think. Part 8. Breaking the addiction to validation. Let us talk about something most people will not say out loud. You are addicted to being seen, not in a shameful way, in a deeply human way. Belonging and recognition are wired into us. They are ancient survival mechanisms. In the tribal world where our brains evolved, being seen and accepted by the group literally meant staying alive. But the modern world has hijacked that system. Every like, every share, every comment, every reply, each one delivers a small dose of neurochemical reward. And like any reward system, we can become dependent on it. We begin making decisions, what to post, what to say, how to present ourselves, not based on what is true or meaningful to us, but based on what will generate the most response. We begin living for the audience. And when the audience goes quiet, when the post doesn't perform, when the validation doesn't come, we feel the crash, the emptiness, the gnawing question of whether we matter. That is not connection. That is dependence. Seneca wrote, "I withdraw from those who flatter me, and from those who make me miserable." Both are equally dangerous. The antidote to validation addiction is not contempt for recognition. It is the development of an internal standard, a set of values so clear and so deeply owned that the opinions of others become interesting data rather than existential verdicts. Ask yourself, what would I do today if no one was watching? What choices would I make if they could not be posted, shared, or commented on? The gap between your answer and your actual life is the size of your validation addiction. Over 30 days, begin making one decision per day entirely for yourself. Something you do not share, something you do not explain, something that belongs only to you. The small practice of secret excellence, doing well without an audience, begins to transfer your source of meaning from the outside world to the inside one. This is the beginning of real freedom. Part 9. Reclaiming mental clarity. A mind that is constantly reacting, constantly seeking validation, constantly marinating in noise is not a clear mind. It is a busy mind. And busyness is often the disguise that confusion wears. Mental clarity is not a personality trait. It is a condition, one that is created by specific habits and destroyed by specific others. You have already begun to see the habits that destroy it. Overconsumption of noise, emotional reactivity, dependence on external validation, failure to examine your own thoughts. Now let us talk about what creates it. Singular focus. The Stoics were not multitaskers. They were deeply, almost ferociously focused. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. Not the past you are grieving, not the future you are fearing. The present moment, fully inhabited." Every time your mind pulls toward rumination or anxiety, it is leaving the present. The practice of returning again and again, without frustration, is the practice of building presence. And presence is the ground of clarity. Writing your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius did not write Meditations to publish it. He wrote it to think. There is a phenomenon well documented in modern psychology called expressive writing. The act of articulating your thoughts in words forces a kind of cognitive ordering that simply thinking does not. When you write your anxieties, your fears, your questions, they stop swirling. They take shape. And once something has shape, you can examine it. You can respond to it rather than be overwhelmed by it. In your 30 days, write. Not beautifully. Not for anyone. Just write what is true. Protecting your mornings. The first 60 minutes of your day set the neurological tone for everything that follows. When you wake and immediately immerse yourself in the demands of the external world, news, messages, other people's urgencies, you begin the day reactive. You begin in someone else's story. When you wake and spend even 15 or 20 minutes in silence, in reflection, in writing, in breath, you begin the day as the author. This is not luxury. This is architecture. You are building the structure of the day before the wind picks up. Part 10. The 30-Day Transformation Framework. Now we bring it together. 30 days. Not 30 perfect days. 30 honest, committed, progressively deepening days. Here is how the arc unfolds. Days 1 through 7. The observation phase. Do not try to change anything yet. Simply observe. Watch your reactions without judgment. Notice when you feel compelled to respond immediately to something. Notice when you reach for your phone. Notice when you feel the need for someone's approval. Notice when the noise feels unbearable. Write these observations down each evening. You are building the map of your own mind, identifying the specific patterns, triggers, and habits that have been governing your inner life without your awareness. Most people are shocked by what they see in this first week, not because it is dramatic, but because it has been invisible for so long. End each day with the evening examination. Begin each day with the morning anchor. By day 7, you will have a clearer picture of your own emotional landscape than most people acquire in a lifetime. Days 8 through 14. The interruption phase. Now you begin to disrupt the patterns you have identified. This week is about creating deliberate pauses. Before you respond, pause. Before you scroll, pause. Before you speak in anger, pause. Before you seek validation, pause. The pauses will be awkward. They will feel unnatural. You will miss them often. That is completely expected. This is not about perfection. It is about interrupting the automatic and inserting the conscious. Introduce the midday pause this week. Begin the silence walks. Start the opinion fast on one day this week and observe how it feels. Do not expect transformation yet. Expect discomfort. The discomfort is the process. Days 15 through 21. The deepening phase. By the middle of this journey, something subtle begins to shift. The pauses start coming more naturally. The emotional reactions begin to feel less overwhelming. Not because nothing is happening, but because you have begun to see the space between event and response. This week, begin applying the dichotomy of control in real time. When anxiety rises, ask, is this in my control? When anger flares, ask, is this worth my peace? When someone's opinion cuts deep, ask, is this the verdict of someone who knows me truly, or the projection of someone in pain? You are not suppressing these emotions. You are examining them before they claim authority over your actions. This week, also begin the practice of secret excellence. Do something well today that no one will know about. Help someone without posting it. Work carefully on something that will never be seen. Make a good choice that earns no applause. Notice how it feels. Notice what that quiet satisfaction is. That is the self that has been waiting beneath the noise. Days 22 through 30. The rebuilding phase. The final stretch is not about maintaining what you have built. It is about owning it. By now, the morning anchor and evening examination should feel natural, perhaps even necessary. The silence should feel less like deprivation and more like return. The emotional reactions should feel like weather you can observe rather than storms that sweep you away. This final week, ask the larger questions. Who do I want to be? Not what do I want to have, or what do I want to appear to be? Who do I want to become? What kind of person do I want to be in my closest relationships? What standard do I want to hold myself to when no one is watching? Write your answers, not as goals, as commitments. As the beginning of a philosophy of your own, one built on the foundation of these 30 days, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." He wrote that as emperor, as a man who had everything and understood that everything was not enough. The only thing that was ever enough was this: a mind well ordered, a spirit genuinely at peace, a life lived in alignment with what you actually value, rather than what the noise tells you to want. 30 days is not a long time. It is not enough time to become a Stoic sage, and that was never the goal. The goal was simpler. The goal was to stop being a stranger to yourself, to stop letting the noise of 1,000 voices drown out the one voice that matters most, the quiet, clear, honest voice of your own deepest knowing. The Stoics did not promise a life without pain. They did not promise that the world would be fair, that people would be kind, that your plans would unfold as intended. They promised something better and more durable than any of that. They promised that you could be unbreakable inside, regardless of what happened outside. That is what these 30 days are building. Not a fortress that shuts the world out, but a center that holds when the world presses in. Epictetus, who had nothing, was asked how a slave could be free. He answered simply, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." That is the whole teaching. That is the reset. You have everything you need. You have always had everything you need. Now go get quiet enough to hear it.